Welcome back. It's Wednesday, and you know what time it is. Fire up that second pot of coffee or a second cup for me. So today is Latina Equal Pay Day. Ooh, I'm going to say Latina Unequal Pay Day. Did you know that Latina women earn 54 cents to the dollar of what a white male earns? So that's what we got going on. We've got a guest coming up in John Erickson, and today's day 7 of the government shutdown. Who's getting paid? Who's not? Why are we talking about no back pay, furloughing, all of that coming up on the Women's Lounge? It's Wednesday. Let's get comfortable. It's Wednesday, and we're back at the Women's Lounge. You know what time it is. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to a dear friend of mine, John Erickson. John, welcome.
It's so great to be here with you always.
I want to say that you are always the first to say, "What do you need?" since I met you. So thank you for believing in what we do, and for saying yes. You're starting a podcast. I will come in.
Yep, whatever you need, I'm always there. Tell me when and where, and I'm coming.
There we go. So I want to talk a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your career. Which, by the way, my son is like, "I want to be John Erickson."
Oh, well, that's very nice. Yeah, I am, well, one, just your biggest fan. Yes, I love you. But I get the opportunity to serve as a council member in the city of West Hollywood. I was just mayor last year, and so that was incredible. But, West Hollywood is a really progressive city where we emphasize women's rights. First pro-choice city in America. Need that more than ever
Yes.
now. But LGBTQ rights, making sure we're there for housing, helping those individuals experiencing homelessness, as well as this, hitting above our weight with all the issues that are coming down from the federal government and even in our own backyards. Because, it just doesn't start all the way back at DC. It's also right here in front of our homes and sidewalks that we have to deal in. So I've been able to be an elected official in that way. And then I have the great opportunity of serving as the chief of staff for an amazing organization that deals with Latino advocacy and immigration based issues because I'm a issues based person when it comes to really what I want to put my heart and soul into. And
Absolutely.
thank you.
I've seen that in your career, and then you always find that time to volunteer. So I think I so appreciate that about you. And also, for those that don't know, he's Midwest,
Yeah.
Chicago and
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
That's why we know. We already had that moment right before this. We were like, yeah, yeah, we got
Yes.
it.
Um, so I'm going to touch base a little bit on your Senate race.
Yes, yes. I'm running for California State Senate in District 24 right here. So yeah, it's fabulous.
So I want to talk about what um what drives you to continue to really advocate for people and not put yourself out there for Senate seat, right? And I had someone ask me, what do state senators do?
Well, California, in the legislature up in Sacramento, there's a lot that is coming before us. The attacks on our communities across the board from Washington are causing a severe budgetary crisis that we're seeing impact local communities, but we're seeing a real crisis of leadership, I think, at the same time as well. Right?
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
say,
you know, but we need experienced leaders who have direct relationships with community members. But as you and I both know, experience does matter when it comes down to how do you vote and legislate on issues like housing, women's reproductive health, protecting doctors who are helping LGBTQ communities, or helping making sure people who are coming from out of state to receive reproductive health care aren't held hostage by their state that they had to flee from. And I think more importantly, the issue that we're facing right now is this question of morals and who we are as California. That's why passing Proposition 50 is so critical, but really saying in the face of such fascism, growing fascism, that we're not going to take it and we're going to fight back. And that's making sure we're suing at every given point. And it takes a lot to make sure that we're spending taxpayer dollars that way, because there is a crisis of affordability that is going on between everyone, whether you're
Ah,
lower or higher. Things are expensive.
absolutely. I think when people talk about affordable housing, I'm like, affordable for who?
Ooh,
Affordable for who? So I also think, budgets reflect our values. And I think that most people don't know that a state senator has so much work on their plate when it comes to um local. I think people think, oh, it's just the federal, but that local government is critical, especially in these moments. Talk to me about the policies that you are determined to push forward when elected, not if elected.
when elected. Well, I really want to pay attention to a lot of the crises that we're facing in education. Teachers are buying their own supplies still. This is not a new conversation, but the attacks on what they can read or teach their kids is coming not only from parent groups, but even from the Supreme Court when they're saying you can't read a LGBTQ book to a kid because of parents' choice. We need to make sure that we're setting up curriculum that not only empowers students, but teaches them about tolerance, diversity, and the beauty of our entire country. But we have a lot of severe funding shortfalls that are impacting education. And as you know, education is everything. And so we need to make sure that we can retain teachers, pay them not just a living wage, a thriving wage, making sure they get benefits and protecting them from the things that you and I have been working on forever against gun violence, attacks in the classroom, bigotry, hatred. I look at healthcare, and that is going from reproductive healthcare and the ongoing attacks from judges on places like Planned Parenthood, but issues to the LGBTQ community. We look at PrEP and PEP, which is something really important to me as a gay man, and how that continues to be attempted to be defunded at every level. And then infrastructure and transportation. And that's the affordability question, right? You and I have to drive everywhere in LA.
Yes.
You and I are from the Midwest. You're from Chicago, so you had a little bit better transportation. But if we could get on a subway or a metro and have it be safe for our families and friends, we would do that and get out of the cars that we are continuing to see pollute our world and cause the issues that we're facing. And so in this world, in this new work as a state senator, it is critical to make sure we have people up there ready to lead and who's at their kitchen table. And you're, of course, always at my kitchen table when we think about these policies that we got to do.
Absolutely. And I think what I really appreciate about you and a lot of folks like you is that you make it seem like politicians are accessible. Folks running for office, right? Because so many people think, well, I don't know who my city council person is. I don't know. I've never met my state senator, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think what do you think we could do as a society to make sure that we understand that folks like you are out here are running, that you're accessible and that you take feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I started that in West Hollywood. When I got elected in 2020, it was the height of the pandemic. We still couldn't be within 6 feet of each other. And I remember getting an email from a constituent saying, no one's accessible, no one's talking to me. And I said, well, what happens if I set up a card table in a park on a Saturday once a month and you can come talk to me? And they said, you would actually do that? And I said, yeah, because we're solutions oriented people. And so I said, yes. And for 50 months now, I have once a month set up a card table in Plummer Park in West Hollywood to make sure they know their council members accessible. The same thing goes for a state senator, state assembly member. Of course, the issues and the demands, because the districts are so much bigger, are huge, but we need to ensure that we're in our districts and in our communities. That's why I'm the only candidate that's currently running that has pledged within my first 100 days holding town halls in every community I represent, and specifically constituency forums with community stakeholder groups to make sure that my policy agenda up in Sacramento is reflective of the work that we're doing here in the district. Because if the district doesn't know who I am, then I can't do the work up in Sacramento.
Absolutely. And that's been critical. So I think that when people think about folks that are at the federal level, they don't realize that these folks have been elected locally and how critical that is to make sure we're informed. So I want to talk to you about what makes this urgent now? What makes you, because I see it, but what do you think makes it urgent? I know that the state center has turned out, and I do think that it is urgent. As we see what is happening with the federal government, I do see it as an urgency to make sure that at the local level, we elect folks that will fight for us.
Yeah, well, it goes back to something that I don't know if I've ever shared with you. When it was 2016 in that winter, that December, and we were talking at like, as much as we were for the first Women's March that we put together, that you put together with a group of incredible people
I'm
that
gonna
were
say we
still,
co.
well,
I
yeah, we have many stories that we will share in another book. Um, but I will never forget my niece, who is now a junior in high school. She was much younger, and she said to me, I was sitting there watching TV with her over the holidays, and she said, "Uncle John, where's the nice lady on the television?" And I remember like my heart dropped. And I remember we were planning this women's march. And we're like, oh my God, who's coming? Is it going to happen? And I was like, and I dove in. I was like, let's go, like full force. And it became what it is and is today. I look back at this moment now with the second Trump presidency, and I sit there and I see my niece, who's much older now, and she's going to go to college. And my other nieces and nephews growing up in a world where hatred is and bigotry are attempting to be the norm, or maybe have always been under the surface. And I said, with this opportunity to step up for my community in a crisis of leadership and saying, I know I'm the right person to serve in this office right now. And then with everything that I know at local government, taking it up to the state to get to work on day one to start working on policy solutions. Because, policy is where it's at.
everything is policy.
Everything.
Anybody that tells you we don't talk politics, but everything is about policy. So yes. So with that, it's. I want to talk to you about how we can reach out, how we can support you, how we can continue to support candidates. By the way, yes, I love the fact that you are stepping into it now, because as we are looking at candidates that are running for the first time for office who are in their 70s, no, we need representation when it also comes to youth.
Yeah. People look at the leadership that we're seeing at the federal government or all over, frankly, and they say, it doesn't look like me. It doesn't talk like me. And it doesn't advocate for things like me. When I ran for office in West Hollywood, it was because my city voted against the minimum wage. At West Hollywood voted against a minimum wage of 2015. And I remember saying, if I can ever do anything to change that, I will, because when people sit there and say, do people know what it means to make 30 cents more an hour and what that means to quality of life? And that's just like 30 cents, right? Back then. And they don't. And I think when I saw people not talking about housing, affordability, cost of living. I mean, not wanting to have a car, I said, I'm going to step into this role. And when you see people talking about acquiescing on the line that we have to stand right now for democracy, for sensibility, I mean, just
Um,
sanity,
affordability, like
affordability,
talking
everything.
to folks that are our age that are voting, we're asking them to vote for policies
Mhm.
to make sure that their future is ensured,
Yes.
right? Like I'm not comfortable with, someone in their 30s, 40s, say, I will never be able to own them.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
shouldn't be okay.
And no one should be okay with that. And I mean, I always go back to like, when activists went over to like then Senator Joe Manchin's yacht that he lived on because he didn't own a boat in West Virginia. And I would just be like, this is the complete out of touch politician that no one needs. That's just one example. And when people don't see leaders that they can identify with or that are talking about issues that they care about, then why would they be involved in politics? Why would they vote? Why would they even? And it's so easy in California. You all have your ballots right now, but like we all get them and it's so easy to turn it in and make sure your voice is heard. And if people feel so disenfranchised, which is what the other side wants, then we have a responsibility to make sure there are people that they want to vote for.
Absolutely. Representation matters. So I'm going to say one thing that gives you hope about our voters, our city, our state. one thing.
One thing. Well, honestly, it's the people that I meet every day. I love serving in elected office in a place like West Hollywood because I'll go to the grocery store and someone will just come up to me and talk to me about an issue that they're having, and we can work together and fix it. That is the beauty of local government. That can be the beauty of a larger type-based government because government is actually supposed to work. And it can, and when it's actually working, it makes a lot of sense because people are able to do the things that matter the most. But when they can't afford healthcare, when they can't afford to go to school, or they're crippled by student loans, or gas is too expensive, or you name it, right? They get drudged down by the bad pieces of life. And we need more joy in this. And so,
Absolutely.
like, to have joy, to have all of that just in a single conversation is what gives me hope.
Yes, and I'm gonna say that you give me hope. I'm
Oh,
gonna say that you give me hope because it is that it's a lived experience. I don't think most people understand you're moving in from another state. Is it affordable? But also, how can I give back? So I want to thank you for always giving back to community, to women's rights, to LGBTQ rights, to immigrant rights. What you have done with West Hollywood is my hope that you will do in Sacramento.
oh, thank you, my
So,
friend.
um, we'll be back. John, thank you for joining us. Where can we reach you?
You can reach me on social media. It's at John Erickson WH, or you can go to my website, johnnericksonforsenate.com, or you can just give me a call. My number is all over my website because of that reason, because I
Or
want to make sure I'm accessible. Probably shouldn't say my number's online, but it is, and I'm easily findable, I guess, which is a good thing.
it is a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. With that, coming up, Women's Rights Watch, where we're at and where we're going. We are 8 day on the government shutdown. Stay tuned. All right. So after speaking to John Erickson, I realized that we've got to do more, that we've got to run for office. We've got to hold those folks accountable across the country. So when we talk about the Women's Rights Watch, we're talking about Latinas being paid 54 cents to the dollar earned by white men. That means that it takes about a year for Latina women to catch up. Um, and that is problematic. It's problematic across the board because it means that no matter what your color, race, ethnicity, any of that, as a woman, you are still not equal. You are not at equal pay. So there's no single factor that accounts for the Latina women's wage gap, but there are policy recommendations. So when we talk about policy, we talk about access to education, immigration reform, reducing discrimination. It can all help Latinas, all of it. So, promoting degree attainment for Latino women can help them obtain access to higher paying jobs, positions, and move up in the workplace, which in turn could help reduce the number of Latina women working in low wage service sector jobs. And I know that's a difficult ask right now as we see the ICE raids, as we see how discrimination is rampant with Latinos. So I do think that we need to address and talk about immigration reform. It's critical that immigration reform happens because we know that it will make it easier for Latinas to advance in the workforce. So we're talking about legalization pathways, visa programs. When we talk about the visas for tech bros, I'm calling it that, tech bros, we don't really have visas like that for women. So I do think immigration reform is going to be critical to help improve the overall labor market outcome for Latina women. So the pay gap's long-term consequences over a woman's career can add up to more than $1 million in lost wages. And That loss affects everything from home ownership to retirement savings to the ability to afford childcare and healthcare. And as we know, with the government shutdown, currently it's about healthcare. It is about the government being shut down for 7 days currently. And don't forget, the last shutdown was on for 35 days under the same president, President Trump. So the last longest government shutdown was under Trump, was 35 days. But right now, what we're talking about is a different tactic. We're on day 7. We're talking about employees being furloughed and facing uncertainty of whether they will receive back pay. But you know who's still getting paid? President Trump, the senators, and the congressmen and women that are still out there. So they are the only ones that are getting paid currently, continuing to get paid as the employees face furloughs, as the employees are unable to receive pay. So I do think that we have to make sure that we're talking to our congressmen or congresswomen and definitely calling our senators. Come back to the table, ask them to come back to the table to make sure that there is still healthcare, affordable healthcare for everyone, because your party shouldn't matter. Women's rights should not be relegated to one party or the other. Healthcare should not be relegated to one party or the other. Because, I mean, you get sick, doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, it does not matter. So let's get back to business. Let's talk to senators. Let's talk to Congress to come back to the table and make sure that they're continuing to fight for us. So from this Latina to you. I'm going to ask to continue to advocate for higher pay, for equal pay for women. The disparities cannot be ignored. It is really clear that the more that women are pushed out of the workforce, the pay gap makes the recovery harder. I read somewhere that it will take Latina women 175 years to get to equal pay. That doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't. So we've got to continue to push back for equal pay for women. From this Latina to everyone that is listening, subscribe, share, follow us. Thank you for joining us today on the Women's Lounge. It's Wednesday. The episode releases on Friday. It is day 7 of the shutdown, and hopefully we will reopen and get back to business. Thank you for joining me on the Women's Lounge. I'm Emiliana Guereca, your host.